I think I've asked this at least a dozen times in the last 10 years. How much do customers care about the sustainability of the AV they're putting in?
There are people at every customer organization that care deeply, but they're not the ones writing the check.
Which means they're not important. Terribly sorry.
Excuse me, you're not off the hook yet. There's just a little matter of the massive damage to my home and my garage and my audio-visual component system. And this is good, thanks.
Bye.
IPMX has its first Connection Fest, AVIXA's latest market health check, and where AV and sustainability come together. All that and more next on AV Week. This is AV Week, episode 748, recorded Friday, December 19th, 2025. Tired of standards. This is AV Week, your weekly wrap-up of the biggest news and stories in the AV and the IT world. We have ownership moves, a AVIXA market report, and a new DV LED install. Let's get into it. Our first story comes from AVIXA and the industry health. In the latest AVIXA Pro AV Business Index report for October shows that while the overall industry is still growing, that growth eased a bit compared with September. The AV sales index came in slightly lower, suggesting that sales momentum could be slowing as we wrap up 2025. Key factors behind the trend include ongoing concerns over tariffs, inflation, and broader economic pressures impacting project scopes and buying decisions. Now, on the flip side, hiring activity remains positive, with the AV Employment Index showing an uptick, a sign that companies are still investing in talent, even in the face of some market caution. It's a nuanced picture, but not dramatic downturn. Certainly, a shift is in place as we head into the new year. Next story, a big internal changes at collaboration tech firm Mersive. The management team at Mersive Technologies has announced it now owns a controlling interest in the company, taking the reins from its previous private equity owner. This move puts the people who work day to day running the business squarely in control of its future direction. Mersive, known for its Solstice wireless collaboration and room distribution solutions, says this transition aligns with its long-term vision to scale its technology offerings and broaden channel partnerships around the globe. Leadership team will continue in their roles as the company charts this new chapter. Logitech has been named to the Inc. Best in Business 2025 list, recognized specifically in the Best AI Implementation category, and that's for its smart switching technology on the Logitech site tabletop conferencing camera. Smart switching uses adaptive AI to automatically pick the best camera angle between devices during hybrid meetings. Now, this gives remote attendees a more inclusive, natural experience. It's part of Logitech's broader push to solve common hybrid collaboration problems with smart tools that help meetings feel a bit more equitable for everyone, wherever they're joining from. Finally, some eye-catching display technology coming out of the Middle East. In Dubai, AV and display out-of-home display specialists are lighting up one of the city's busiest road, Sheikh Zayed Road, with large format digital out-of-home displays designed by Infrared. These installations leverage high brightness outdoor rated LED panels to deliver dynamic visual content along one of the most trafficked corridors in the region. The rollout highlights not just the scale of modern DOOH technology, but also how bold visual solutions are becoming a part of urban storytelling and brand engagement in major global cities. And if you've ever seen Dubai skyline at night, you know it is the perfect backdrop for cutting-edge displays just like this. That is your AV news. Stick around for this week's roundtable where we will look at standardized AV over IP and sustainability in AV. This is AV Week. Welcome back. Now we bring in our fantastic roundtable with us to discuss the news and information we have gathered this week. First and foremost, Lyle Waldron. Welcome, sir.
Greetings and salutations from the south of South.
The south of South, yes. You are on an island.
Over my left, out of my left window, I can see an aircraft carrier. Fun times. Fun times. It's fun times.
Also with us, someone who is also not in the continental United States, Brock McGinnis. How are you, sir?
I am on the continent, just not in the United States. I'm
Yes.
terrific. I am
Yes,
terrific,
you-
Tim. Thank you.
You are in North America, yes.
Yes.
For those of my fellow countrymen who are geographically challenged, Canada is a part of the North American continent. And also with us, a young man that I've gotten to know over the last few months as he joined CTI, good Lord, 7 months ago now, Bill Lawrence. Welcome, sir.
Welcome. I'm glad to be here. I've been called a lot of things today, but young man, that's the first time I've heard that in quite a while.
The older I get, the younger everyone else gets, Bill.
I understand this.
Exactly. All right, we're going to we quite frankly, with this group, we might hit one story, and I think I'll count myself lucky on that. Because, anyhow. The first story we're going to do, Mitchell will put a link to that. It's from our friends over at Innovate. AIMS, the AIMS Alliance, along with the Video Services Forum, VSF, is looking to, quite frankly, do a IPMX product testing and certification event. Now, this is taking place a couple weeks before ISE, January 19th through the 23rd, at the EBU headquarters in Geneva, Switzerland. There's something important here. I have made no bones about the fact that I am watching IPMX, I am cheering them on, but I am also going to be one of their biggest critics until they get this thing done. Because, yes, AV over IP is a fantastic technology, and we need all the competitors we can get. I am a big fan of interoperability. I am a big fan of open standards. My problem with open standards is the open standards community, which seemingly loses interest after a while, and then the standard goes bye-bye. So we'll see. I will be cautiously optimistic about this interoperability consortium and this event. But this does mark a significant step for IPMX, quite frankly, from a development and interoperability testing platform or perspective. This helps them get further down the certification line. Now, for first-time manufacturers, this will be a chance for them to earn IPMX certification for products that quote-unquote meet verified transport, timing, and interoperability requirements. This signals readiness for the real-world AV over IP deployments across Pro AV and live production markets. Here is where I lose control. Lyle!
I'm going to get the blame no matter what. I would strongly advise listeners to the audio podcast to go look at the video, because my facial expressions are going to be worth it. So philosophically and practically, I'm tired of standards. I don't want any more. I have long started to feel as if the manufacturing community just created standards so we could buy new stuff. It's like aging things out without age. That said, I want to double down on everything you just said there, Tim. I think this standard, I want to put the emphasis on this. This standard is necessary. We have been in the rice fields. We have been in the forest of AV over IP now for about a decade. And it's been anything and everything from anyone and everyone. And we've had a few manufacturers try to help us out a little bit, especially on the networking side. Not because I think they wanted to help us, Tim. I think it's because they want to help themselves and their support lines and the phone calls they're getting about their switches. I'm not calling any companies' names, but you know yourself, switch manufacturers. This is necessary. I hope it happens. I hope adoption is fueled by the reality that there are no licensing fees. I think of everything in the IPMX story, Tim. The biggest thing is that, you know what? Take it, use it, go with it. But even though there are no licensing fees, which I think is a very big carrot, I don't think there's an equivalent stick. Because at the end of the day, I can support the chipset and the standard, and I could come with this other thing that I've been using for the past 15 years and put a twist on it and make it more proprietary and just make it work a little bit better with my stuff. We've seen it from the consumer side, everybody, but the hope, I guess, for me rests in the fact that this is a European thrust, and if the EU could make Apple and Android airdrop files now, then anything's possible.
Okay. Mr. McGinnis, what do we think of another standard coming down the pipeline trying to do the wonderful utopia that is interoperability?
Generally above my pay grade.
Okay, hang on. That thing is above your pay grade, I have learned.
Generally above my pay grade, or at least maybe my intellectual capacity. That said, I like two things about this story. One is they're going to test. So there is going to be an independent arbitrator or arbitrar of whether this piece of junk meets the standard or that piece of junk meets the standard, but they're all going to be the same standards, because we all bought gear with chips from a company that may or may not have sponsored AVNation tweet-ups in the past, that don't work together, and so we'll buy something that says this standard on it, but it doesn't actually do all the things that are in that standard. So, like Lyle, so it's not the licensing, to me, that's the key. It's not a proprietary chip. It's anybody's chipset or combination of chipsets. So that opens up a whole nother layer of development, because there's no question that in the evolution of the Dante world or the HD-based world or the SDVOE world, that the chip makers are gatekeepers and have been able to make a decision who's going to get this product, who's going to get which version of it, who's going to get it first. Different deals cut with different manufacturers. So something that is a bit more like electricity, that if you know the voltage, if you know the amperage, if you know the cycle rate, you can really narrow down on what that is going to do for the pieces of equipment that are attached to either end. So that's my only perspectives.
Bill, same kind of question. What do we think about standard plug fest, basically, is what we're talking about here?
Yeah, so if you know anything about me at any level, it's that standards are a deep passion for me. And I think that first and foremost, people have radically different understanding and definitions of what standards mean. And I think in this case, we're very clear about it. And looking back historically at the AV industry and the progression from sync on green days that we were all around for, and into digital transport and all the iterations that happened in between there, I kind of forgive that history quite a bit, feeling that each manufacturer was trying to find the next level technology to go on twisted pair with whatever available silicon sets and hardware sets there were to do it to the best of their ability with the best possible outcome. So that is something I forgive them for in the proprietary phase of all this. But that being said, what I hope to see out of this, the standards testing and the melding of all of these requirements into a single transport format, is more a coming of age of the AV industry, where we become matured into the IT and the ITU universe, where it's no longer about how the signal gets to and from the devices and how they connect and how they communicate, because that becomes table stakes. That's what, to me, a true standard in this industry is. And until you have that, when you're trying to cross the streams and adapt and overcome into various signal topologies and technical methodologies of delivery, we can't focus on what I think are the wider responsibility that we have to the end users in the industry. This is the core infrastructure we're talking about. Yeah, it's way past time we figured it out and just made it easy.
All right, I'm going to ask a dangerous question here, probably. Not probably, I am going to ask a dangerous question. Here is my 2 cents when it comes to the word standard. SDVOE, HD-based T, Dante. As a good friend of mine used to say, we are all coin operated. Those standards specifically are coin operated because they are owned by for-profit companies. You can argue with me if you want. Yes, they have, nonprofit folks and associations that promote that technology, but at the end of the day, that technology is owned by a for-profit company. Audinate specifically is traded on the Australian, stock exchange. This one is not, right? IPMX is not. Now, where I equate it to AVB is the fact that it's not, right? And that is what gives me pause And that is what gives me a little bit of trepidation when it comes to IPMX, is the fact that at the end of the day, nobody is financially incentivized to make this sucker work.
Right.
Except that IEEE thing worked well.
Once.
Touche.
Wi-Fi. Yeah, and I'm going to get letters about that one. That's fine. There are other standards, certainly the IEEE. But the biggest one that anybody can point to is Wi-Fi, which works fantastic. But, I mean, AVB anymore is an audio transport, right? That's what it's been reduced to.
Well, I think the other side of what you're saying, if we use Wi-Fi as a deeper dive, Wi-Fi was for a much larger market and audience. So it kind of had to. There were too many devices. We had to make it work. I think the problem here for me in all of this is we were reminded like a couple years ago when Microsoft bought stuff for billions, and like we're a really small, big industry. Like we're a really big industry to us, but we're a really small industry when you look at Google or Meta, or, you know, it's not as tech industries go. So that I think that's where the issue lays. Because you're right, my mind, Tim, was in the same channels. I'm thinking specifically about AES, right? AES67. So there's this thing, and technically speaking, it's open enough, and it's not, I'm not too sure of the licensing model, but it's free as far as I know. But everybody is still jumping on the Dante bandwagon, even though it's driving up the final cost to the end users. It has to, because they have to pay ordinate, they have to pay, they have to. So what is it about that? What is it about HD-based-T? HD-based-T became more of a convenience to a lot of people because it was actually more fiscally prudent to not be able to interrupt. It just was. That way you couldn't get a transmitter from this guy and a receiver from this guy. And I mean, you know, more power to Crestron, but DM was HD-based-T plus, right? It was HD-based-T squared or whatever is the case.
Yeah.
So, you know, we share the same fare here, which is on paper, this specific attempt to standardize, great. For me, the only thing that this could end up being forced into is because it's a European Union item, because it's European. So I've seen USB-C hit an iPhone because of them. I've seen, I think it was today, Apple had to open up their app stores in Japan, and the first alternative app store to go across was a European one. So that to me is the only, because there's no, if we look at this through a contemporary capitalist lens, there is no reason that anybody in their right mind, QSys is not going to get benefit from adopting a standard that I can buy a QSys this and end up with a Panasonic that. It's not to their benefit.
Yeah, it has to be driven by the end users and by the market, absolutely. And the, you know, the way I look at it is kind of like this. And I agree 100% with the analogy you made for Wi-Fi. Again, a much more mature technical market, a much more mission-critical technical market that has higher things at stake if it fails. But the way I see the race here is that the manufacturers need to stop thinking about the track and start thinking about the car, right? So if the transport is the track, we should know that there's always going to be a regulated, evaluated and standard track to run the race on. And that brings their focus for design and enhancement forward into the user experience, into the feature set. And I think that's a lot easier to achieve today in terms of technology, because if we look back even 5 of the 10 years that we've been talking about this type of technology, the available processing power and the flexibility of that processing platform has grown, 40x. So now we're not talking about purpose-built Shark DSPs that, are fixed I/O and fixed infrastructure. We're now talking about more of a true processor-based, software-defined transport medium. And I think, again, my hopes are that is the catalyst that allows this to maybe push toward a more ubiquitous standard, and the manufacturers see that. I think that the market has gotten wise and the users have gotten wise to the fact that if you make a trick pony and the only thing it does is its trick, it gets old pretty quick. What we really need to have is a stable that can run any of the trails equally well, pull any of the loads equally well, and interchange when one needs feeding and one needs rest. That's a really bad analogy for electronics, but it's what you got today. Yeah. It's Friday and it's almost quitting time.
It is almost quitting time. Really quickly, Lyle, this is not just an EU organization. I mean, AIMS and IPMX is global, right? So they are doing it in the EU, but the whole
I get that it's global, but because it's rooted over there, I have fingers and toes crossed that it's going to have to become a thing.
Yeah.
If you're going to sell a product, and at a minimum, it has to have this standard. And then maybe as end users, we insist on it, and it makes it happen. So we'll see.
Second story comes to us from our friends over at AV Magazine. They hosted an AV Sustainability Summit where they brought together AV professionals, integrators, manufacturers, end users, policymakers, and a whole lot of more folks, quite frankly, exploring how the industry can move sustainability from concept to practice. The panels and sessions focused on practical strategies for reducing environmental impact, energy efficient product design, and life cycle management to responsible e-waste practices and alignment with emerging sustainability standards. Brock, I'm going to start with you on this. I think I've asked this at least a dozen times in the last 10 years. How much do customers care about the sustainability of the AV they're putting in?
There are people at every customer organization that care deeply, but they're not the ones writing the check.
Which means they're not important. Terribly sorry.
They are important. I lost a notable vendor record contract. Well, the company did for not having a significantly embellished enough sustainability submission. In audiovisual, this perplexes me. I look at the SAVE organization. I think they're doing good things in terms of trying to move product out of the trash and into other applications or into proper recycling channels. I see manufacturers boasting about reduced packaging. I don't see anybody saying that they're building a recyclable product. I can buy a recyclable boat today, right?
Sure.
But I can't. We've reduced power. That's great. I don't know what else to do with electronic waste. Can you take the glass out and recycle the glass separately? Nobody's ever talked to me about that. Are they using recycled plastic, to use a generic term, in order to make the housings of some of the displays and the other products? I've certainly never heard that happen within the electronic industry. Do they want the little copper bits and whatnot inside? Probably not worth the money that's required to separate the various metals and spin them out. So I don't know. Bill, do you know anything about sustainability, like real sustainability opportunities within the industry we work in?
Yeah, I think the industry is starting to almost frown upon recycling to a point. Because I live by the ocean, but I'm starting to see boxes stack up out there, where the bottom's getting shallow. But for me, this kind of goes back to the prior topic of, there's a lot of obsolete equipment every day, every year, every decade, because our requirements have outpaced the hardware capabilities. And I think that the industry is not necessarily incentivized to think in terms of sustainable platform, although a few manufacturers are doing this. And by sustainable platform, I mean boxes that, again, are not bespoke chipsets, limited functionality chipsets, but more processor and operational amplifier and interface topographies that can grow with the technological requirements, the bandwidth advancements, the resolution advancements and things like that. I think that that's where we start to really get serious about sustainability as an industry, where you're not removing the box anymore, but perhaps you're just removing the silicon engine from it or adding additional overlays into it that allow it to beef up to the next standard. I also think that we're going to see something of a forgiveness curve in sustainability, in that for all intents and purposes, we have run completely up against the wall of high resolution, right? We've got 8K, we've got 4K that we really don't need a lot of the time. We don't need 4K. So that race to get to pixels and that race to get to bandwidth to transport between devices at that required pixel count, has started to level off. We're getting very good at digital audio transport. Controls just a bit in the bob here that's floating along the outside of the jacket. So I think that the industry is starting to stabilize in terms of a real requirement set. So my hope is that in the next decade, the platform of equipment that the manufacturers come out with is more adaptable, more firmware-centric rather than hardware-centric, and we can keep that iron in the rack a lot longer.
That's actually a really good idea. Lyle, from your perspective, not just for your campus, but also inside HETMA, what are you hearing as far as how important this is?
Well, I think with where, especially North American universities are right now in terms of budgets, y'all have finally gotten to where we were in 2008 in terms of access to funding. Where y'all are now at and where we've been for a long time is it's not a consideration, if I'm being real. It's a conversation piece. It's something that we have to say to be palatable in a contemporary sense. And I mean, I hate saying that. But Tim, you've known me a couple of years now. You know, we have a saying in Trinidad, I can't put a pot cover over my mouth. So the reality is just that. Nobody cares. Yeah. I can't separate myself from the reality that this is the week that, again, as much as I just lauded the European Union, this is the week that the EU is going to be scrapping its emissions targets for cars. This is the year that, because I'm an AV nerd and I'm also an AV nerd. And for the listeners who don't know what AV is, would be aviation, right? I listen to all my AV podcasts and I listen to all my AV podcasts. This year, it was noted in all of the end-of-year wrap-ups, this is the year that no manufacturers or airlines spoke any more about sustainability. We're not talking about SAF anymore in the airline industry in a big way. Porsche, who wanted to continue making combustion engines but were all in on synthetic fuels, haven't heard them speak about it in the past 2 years. So we've passed the climate reasons. We understand, well, maybe some of us understand, the tangible, real, hard reasons why we were trying to have this conversation. And just in case the listener base doesn't understand where I'm coming from, I live on a small island state. I have seen sea level rise as a real thing. I'm going to find a YouTube video for you, Tim, and send it to you. There was this day, there was too much rain, and the sea actually came in by like about 6 feet. Roads, yeah. And I'm in my E90 BMW 6-speed manual transmission, love the little car, on a set of BC Racing coilovers with water up to my sill. Because that was the day I decided to take a day off and drive around the island, and I'm on that road. I'm 15 minutes ahead of a 3-story house falling into the ocean. And the road just going behind it. So for me, I'm not coming from this as some kind of tree-hugging hippie guy.
Yeah.
I've seen what happens here. But let's unpack what Brock said. We've gotten far more power efficient. We've gotten down to 3 nanometers in chips. And all of the older chips are now themselves, they're cheaper, so we can put them into stuff. Great. What are we going to do now? If, Brock LLC is making a 8x8 switcher or AV over IP device that costs $200, and Bill is doing the same thing, but he's going to use recyclable materials, so it costs $450. My procurement department, the purchasing department for University X is going to buy all in Brooks. Because we have less money. We have less money. So then what happens is sustainability guy, Bill LLC, is going to go out of business shortly. He's going to file for bankruptcy. And the way it works in the world nowadays is Brock LLC is going to buy him.
Yep.
Right? And we get worse and worse. So let's just be, for once, I think if we speak about things as they are, not as we wish them to be, for now, I'm not saying this is going to hold forever, and I don't want to be the doom and gloom guy. But the reality is nobody cares. And with the weakening fiscal position for all of us globally, we've now found legitimate reasons. The machine of modernity continues. We need those HDMI switchers. We need those 4K TVs. We need those. We're not going to stop on those things. But this is where we are. Sustainability is no longer a part of the conversation. Maybe it will be in the conversation in a couple of years. And hopefully Phoenix is not going to be molten lava by then.
Well, I didn't want to bring this up before Infocom, but Bill LLC is introducing his own version of video over cold water pipe, where you just use the plumbing in the building. So think of the money you could save.
There you go. PVC all the way.
So the other thing that's happened is, and yes, this is a movement in society, because people can't get elected anymore by an electorate that makes it a priority. Politicians globally, in some notable 50-state countries more than others, but globally have deprioritized sustainability, deprioritized conservation. Global warming has gone the way of vaccines, as Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny, and so it's a challenge. And I think back, and it was maybe the last ISE at Amsterdam, where Samsung's entire booth was about sustainability.
Yeah.
And now that simply wouldn't be a sales point. People would just shake their heads and walk on by.
So really quickly, Brock. Last year, Samsung and Harman both still had a wall, a portion of their stand at ISE. Had some of their sustainability efforts, some of their sustainability initiatives. But you're right, that entire booth, which if you went to the one in Amsterdam, it was the entire portion of one hall.
Yeah, absolutely.
That has certainly been reduced. The global companies, and I'm trying to say this as carefully as I can, the global companies that sell not just to one country but globally, they are still holding on to some of that because there are certain parts of the world where that is important. Here in the States, that does not seem to be the case, at least not much anymore.
And those parts of the world all eat a lot of fish from cold water. Like Scandinavia is still very engaged with that. But times have also changed since 2019, 2020. Samsung is probably more focused on sustaining some of their business units than the sustainability as a sales point. And DEI initiatives have fallen along the way to a lot of the same thing. It has become a nice to have, but it's no longer a must have. And the ESG stuff in the stock market, people aren't paying any attention to that anymore. So it's I question why there was a sustainability summit at this point. And I'll go back to what the SAVE people are trying to do, is, hey, we have a bunch of crap in our warehouses. Let's find the best way not to put that crap in a landfill, or not to have it wash up Lyle on your beach.
Yeah, just send it to me in a pallet. I'll take it.
Yeah, but I mean, if you look at the upside, if we just ignore it and the ozone hole grows, think of how much more solar energy we can reap through.
Oh, God. Well, just one last thing on this, because I know Tim, you want to push on. I think sometimes, and forgive me, this is where being on the spectrum helps, because I could see too many things at the same time. I don't think y'all, especially being in continental North America, could understand how much the global tariff issue we have directly relates to this. Because I've explained this before. For me, let's say my exchange rate is 7-1, roughly, right? When I buy something, it's all made in China, the States, Europe, whatever. I have to pay times 7. So if it's $100 US for you, Tim, it's immediately $700 for me. But I then also have to pay 12.5.
Back up for a second. Don't skip over that. Say that slowly again.
Okay, let's be quick maths. If it's 100 USD, I mean, Canadians feel this. Brock understands where I'm going.
Yeah, but
it's not as bad.
It's 700 TT. It's
700 Trinidad and Tobago dollars.
It's not
right?
700. Yeah, it's 700.
It's not going to be 700 US.
Yeah, it's not.
But I am going to extrapolate how much it comes back to US in a second, Brock. So it's 700 TT. But I have to pay a 12.5% sales tax. That's not crazy. You all have sales tax in a ton of states. Yeah. But then I also have to pay duty, a customs tariff of 30% on all electronics. Now that tariff is not there to be punitive to the states. It's there to reduce the spending power of a Trinidadian because we don't have unlimited foreign exchange. It's actually there for a reason. It's not there because we don't like the States. Because trust me, we love America. We love baseball and all kinds of good stuff. No, we don't. But let's just pretend that for a second. All right, good. So now we're already at about, let's just keep it at $100. It was like $112.50, and it's going to be like about $150. So that $100 projector, whatever, is now actually $150 US.
Okay.
When you add a 100% tariff or a 50% tariff, you just took $75 on the 150 because that's what I have to pay for it. So it's now $225. So for Tim, the item is $100, maybe 130, 150. For Lyle, it's $275.
Except Lyle, very quickly.
Yes.
Your market is buying from ROW, rest of world.
Well, not for AV stuff.
You cannot afford to buy anything that passes through the U.S.
Well, not no. Now, yes.
No,
So, but
because
before time,
because
it was all US.
Yeah, the unique thing about the Trump tariff is that there is no drawback. So somebody re-exporting. So let's pick a projector manufacturer. Epson brings in a projector. It's the standard at your university. You buy out of a distributor in Miami, but that projector is now $150, and it has all those has extra duties. Those duties are no longer reclaimable.
Yes.
So you're going to buy from a Panamanian distributor.
Were you in my email? Because this is too close. This is too close. So I'm buying from somebody. I'm not going to say Epson, but let's just say it's really close. It's like Epdad maybe. And I had to reroute all of my trade through Panama. Funny enough, but that literally is like what happened in the last 3 months. But before that, everything he just said, Tim. So now, just the bigger picture for this, because I don't want to get too lost in the weeds here, is if I am now spending 200% just to get this one item at the end of this blessed day, do you really think sustainability? Like we just said about Samsung, I now have to sustain the university, I have to sustain the enterprise, I have to sustain the McDonald's franchise with their nice big, commercial grade TVs. We no longer can say, well, gee, there are 2 projectors washing up on the beach. We're going to have to let them projectors wash up. Hopefully one works so we have one less projector to buy. It is what it is.
And the equally sad part of that, Lyle, is that where you used to buy that projector in the U.S., they've had to lay some people off.
Correct. We know basically it's that. I mean, the cascading effect is crazy.
They've had to lay off some workers.
100%.
And, the solution, that 12.5% sales tax? Yeah. So America had a choice between tariffs and a sales tax. A sales tax people scream at because it's overt taxation. Yes. A tariff, apparently some people can be fooled, although not those who voted in the recent elections. By the way, Mitchell, you can erase all of this political stuff.
No.
No, you can erase that political stuff. No, but I mean, just to close it.
All of us are affected by global economics.
Yeah.
And it's been a challenging year for AV because of the unknowns that have been associated with the global economic changes. You're having to buy from different people in different ways. We're doing the same thing in the Canadian market. In theory, Bill's buying more made in America product, which was part of the objective and would be a good thing for the American economy and American workers. But, we're all paying the Biamps and the Crestrons and the others a surcharge to cover their additional manufacturing costs, even within the contiguous 48 states. So.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, gentlemen.
Fun times.
Thank you, all 3 of you guys, so much. I appreciate it. Lyle Waldron, thank you, sir. How do people connect with you if they are so inclined?
But I'm old school. I think I'm really gonna scale down LinkedIn even more. I don't know how I can do that, but I'm gonna try. Okay. So anybody needs to get me, 868-683-2442, iMessage, WhatsApp. I'm there. Call, hit me up. Let's chat. Yeah, old school, right? It's cool.
Old school, yeah.
Old tech coming back again.
Brock McGinnis, thank you, sir. How do people connect with you?
Looking at my CompuServe address. You want old school. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm Brock at Nationwide AV. And most recently, B. McGinnis at pavs.ca, where I'm heavily engaged in the evolution of the new Professional Audiovisual Society of Canada. We have a meetup, a luncheon for PAVSC members at ISE coming. We're a movement in Canada, and it's not anti-VIXA, it's not anti-American, it's not any of those things. This is about elevating people who work in AV, both through education and through some advocacy out there in the world. So,
I am very excited to see what you guys do. Yeah, I'm very excited about that. Mr. Lawrence, thank you, sir. I appreciate you coming on. How do people connect with you?
Well, you can find me at bill.lawrence@cti.com. I'm on LinkedIn a little bit too, and if you're on the airwaves, you can find me by my call sign at Kilo Quebec 4 Tango Lima Mike, all across HF, VHF, and UHF bands.
I think he old school both of you.
I was sitting on that, Lyle. I was sitting on that.
My name is Tim Albright. Do not follow me anywhere on the socials, because at this point, I am no longer complaining about the Bears. I am anxiously watching the Bears every single weekend, and hopefully by this time that this releases, they will have a full control of the NFC North after beating the Green Bay Packers. And yes, I know that I'm recording this, and I don't care. Go by the website, though, if you would please, AVNation.tv. That's AVNation.tv. You can find this program and a host of others, including a brand new EdTech with Erin Mayer Moran, where she looks at the UC platforms in higher education and AI. If you want to read stuff that I have that has nothing to do with AV, you can follow me on LinkedIn. And if you follow me on LinkedIn, you're going to find a post there from a buddy of mine by the name of Nathan Catino from Logitech. Now, Nathan has his own program called Seasoned Baggage, and I happen to be a guest on it, and I was very, very honored to do so. We hung around Chicago, went to go see his home studio in Chicago, got to have some Dubai chocolate, but you can check that out as well. I'll have Mitchell put a direct link on that YouTube, but go by the website if you would please, avnation.tv. That's avnation.tv. If you're watching this and you're tired of looking at me, you can go listen to us wherever you get your podcast. And if you're listening and you want to see what these fine gentlemen look like, you can go check us out on YouTube. But start and end at the website, avnation.tv. That's avnation.tv. Thanks so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. That is all the time we have for AV Week.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AV Nation.
This is AV Nation.